Do your research.
The tri-state area today, it will be hazy, hot, and humid. So the 3 H's, and we'll follow that up with at least a chance for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms as we head into the afternoon and evening. So things are going to be hot and humid. So
all praise to the Most High.
Good morning to you and welcome to
CBS.
It's Monday, July 6,
Shots
2020. I'm Gail King with Tony DeCopel. Anthony Mason is off today. Vladimir Dudier is here of our streaming network CBSN. New danger signs. Local officials sound the alarm about the surge in coronavirus cases as many Americans seem to ignore safety guidelines over this holiday weekend. We'll talk to the mayor of Miami about why he's being more strict than the state's governor.
Saying goodbye, Broadway star Nick Cordero dies after a long battle with the coronavirus. His story and the heartfelt message from his wife, Amanda Klutz. What does she know as Ghislaine Maxwell sits in jail? Whether she might cooperate with prosecutors in the Jeffrey Epstein sex abuse investigation. And art in the new normal, how some of the world's greatest cultural sites are turning to new technology in the pandemic to let tourists return safely.
But first, here's today's eye-opener. It's your world in 90 seconds.
It's clear that the growth is exponential at this point. We've been breaking record after record after record all the last couple of weeks.
A staggering 40 out of 50 states are seeing coronavirus infections on the rise.
Florida surpassing more than 200,000 COVID-19 cases.
More hospitalizations, more ICUs, more respirators, and unfortunately, you'll have more fatalities.
We show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless.
President Trump told the crowd on the National Mall most COVID-19 cases are, quote, totally harmless.
We absolutely must take this seriously.
Tony Award-nominated Broadway star Nick Cordero has died from complications of the coronavirus.
If I live my truth, I'm living just for you.
Remains found in Texas are now confirmed as missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen. The Army private disappeared in late April.
heavy rains triggered deadly mudslides in Japan.
The record storms left roads impassable.
All that, Kanye West wants to go from Yeezus to POTUS.
West announced on Twitter that he is running for president this year.
And all that matters.
With major fireworks shows canceled, well, people took to launching those fireworks on their own.
The National Fireworks Association saw a record number of people buying their own fireworks this year.
On CBS This Morning.
The 4th of July may look a little different this year due to COVID-19. It's still not the same without a fantastic fireworks display.
The big salute to America lit up the sky over the National Mall. For the first time ever, fireworks were shot off of the Empire State Building as part of the annual Macy's Fireworks Show. This morning's eye-opener is presented by Toyota.
Welcome to CBS This Morning. Normally we'd be talking about the fireworks because they were, of course, very beautiful, but we have to start today, guys, with talking about Nick Cordero, how our hearts go out to the family. I know you all felt like I did when we got the news over the weekend. It was very tough. It was very tough to hear because we were all pulling for him. And even though I didn't know Nick Cordero, I felt that we got to know him through his wife, Amanda.
Yeah.
We just talked to her a week ago, and she was so enthusiastic, and it was so infectious pulling for him. So when we got the news, it was very, very difficult to hear.
She was so full of hope. I was left with hope from that interview. And now, as Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote on Twitter last night, my whole heart is with her and the family right now. It's a shocking development.
You know, he was only 41 guys. That's what gets me. And after I heard the news, I went to YouTube and listened to that song that he wrote, Live Your Life. It is devastating.
I did too. They have a little baby Elvis who just turned 1 in June. We will have more on this story later on in the newscast, but we wanted to say we are thinking of you, Amanda, and your family this morning. We begin, though, with this, the frustration and fear from local officials across the country after a packed 4th of July weekend and surging cases of the coronavirus, and surging is a word. While some Americans observed social distancing, many others did not, including at beaches and water parks. At this popular party spot in Michigan, nobody in this crowd seemed to be wearing a mask.
I don't see many. In Florida, there are long lines at testing sites. The state topped 11,000 cases in a single day Friday, with more big numbers over the weekend. The surge coming after Governor Ron DeSantis repeatedly downplayed the threat. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, is in Miami Beach for us. David, good morning. How is the governor responding now?
Best we can tell, he's not responding. Now, it has been a holiday weekend, but he hasn't made any public statements. Look, the governor in the past has been very combative, suggesting the media gets some kind of joy. Those were his words when the numbers spiked. But that is not the case, as you obviously know from the media. This morning, as we stand in front of this line, some people have been here since 4:30 this morning. We were on Miami Beach over the weekend. It was very quiet. The local officials decided to shut down the beaches. The governor said he wasn't closing. So the locals said, we will do it. Here's how things look around the rest of the country. July 4th celebrations look pretty normal in certain parts of the country, despite the increased spread of the coronavirus and calls for social distancing. People partied on the Minnetonka Lake in Minnesota and packed on the beaches across San Diego.
Humans aren't supposed to be locked up for forever. It's a weekend to celebrate, so here we are.
In Miami, beaches were closed as the state doubled its infection in just 2 weeks. Florida now has 200,000 confirmed cases and more than 3,700 deaths. Another state seeing a spike in cases is Arizona. The mayor of Phoenix, Kate Gallego, says the state opened way too early.
We were one of the last states to go to stay at home and one of the first to reemerge, and we reemerged at 0 to 60.
Now, hospital bed use in Arizona is at an all-time high. Over in Texas, the medical center's Phase 1 intensive care capacity is at 98%. Austin Mayor Stephen Adler says there may not be enough medical personnel to keep up with the spike in cases.
Our trajectory is rising geometrically, and it's scary right now how quickly we're going to overwhelm our hospitals.
Be careful. 88-year-old Marie Smith tested positive for the coronavirus while visiting her daughter Andrea in Arlington, Texas.
Miss Smith, you beat the odds.
Yeah, I did. It's a blessing.
Mrs. Smith spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital, but she is now recovering.
I'm glad to be home.
7 people in the family tested positive, including her son Lewis.
No one wound up in the ICU, and we're fortunate and we're blessed that we have really good access to health care.
She is doing exceptionally well.
You trying to say, man, how can you get off? They don't get a chance to do you?
And a testimony of what happens when a family circles around another family member and prays together.
You know, Andrea got tested in Texas, her brother Lewis got tested in New York City, and their stories were so different and they found it so interesting. Lewis got his test results back almost right away, and the city of New York called him to say, hey, we have a place for you to stay if you need, we have food, we have mental health counseling, and they called him almost every day to check on him. Andrea says it took 8 days for her to get her results back, and they never called to offer her anything, or really to check up on her. 2 different stories, Vlad. 2 different states.
Troubling indeed, David, and what makes it harder in Florida is it's hard to trace some of those partygoers because Florida doesn't make public information about clusters. David, thank you very much. President Trump is being widely criticized for suggesting that 99% of coronavirus cases are totally harmless. That claim is not true. And the mayor of Austin, Texas, where cases are surging, called the remark dangerous. Paula Reed reports from the White House.
Now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless.
President Trump made that unsubstantiated claim on July 4th, but even his own FDA commissioner, Dr. Stephen Hahn, struggled to support it.
Is the president wrong? So I'm not going to get into who's right and who's wrong. What I'm going to say, Dana, is what I said before, which is that it's a serious problem that we have.
Houston's mayor, Sylvester Turner, is battling a record spike in infections. He refuted the president's statement.
The number of people who are getting sick and going to the hospital has exponentially increased. The number of people in our ICU beds has exponentially increased.
The mayor of Miami-Dade County also insisted the president was wrong.
If it were harmless, I wouldn't be taking the steps that we're taking here in Miami-Dade.
The president also contradicted his own public health experts on the timeline for a vaccine.
And we'll likely have a therapeutic and/or vaccine solution long before the end of the year.
I can't predict when a vaccine will be available.
Former Trump Homeland Security Advisor Thomas Bossert issued this warning.
We have to start at the basics and level with people. Suggesting that it's not dangerous is in itself a dangerous message.
The Trump campaign has announced an outdoor rally this Saturday at the airport in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But a recent campaign rally resulted in dozens of Secret Service agents and campaign staffers having to quarantine after several tested positive. But in Portsmouth, the campaign says attendees will be provided with masks and encouraged to wear them. Gail?
All right, thank you, Paula. We can't stress that enough. Wear the mask. We are joined now by former CDC Director, that's Dr. Tom Frieden. He is the president and CEO of the initiative Resolve to Save Lives, which works to prevent epidemics. Good morning to you, Dr. Frieden. I want to start with President Trump's remarks over the weekend that 99% of the cases are harmless. That's really hard to take, especially today following the death of Nick Cordero, who's 41, walked into the emergency room. They were thinking it's pneumonia. Of course, we all know he did not make it out. So what did you think when you heard that?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. Thanks for covering this. I think that part of the challenge here is that we've lost the nuance. Some people are saying this is a hoax, it's fake, it's not serious. Other people may be saying it's the worst thing in the world, it's a zombie apocalypse. It's neither. This is a terrible pandemic. It has killed 130,000 Americans. It has sickened many, many more. And we don't yet know what the long-term complications of some of that illness is. But it is true that 99% of the people who get it will survive. We need a more nuanced approach. Right now, the virus has the upper hand throughout much of America, most of America. We can regain the upper hand if we work together. If we work together, we can get our kids back to school in the fall, we can restart our economy, and we can prevent deaths. But we'll only do that by coming together to stop the virus. It's not going to stop on its own. We have to stop it. And we do that through the 3 W's, wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance, and by strategic testing.
It's a 3-3-3. Do your
focus
research.
on the number of tests is totally misguided. What we need to be asking
that's
is
what I want to get into. That's what I want to get into.
And the right things being done. Yes, Gail.
That's what I want to get into, Dr. Frieden, the testing, because the president is blaming the surge on the increase in testing. Does he have a point?
Although it's true we're testing more, we're finding a whole lot more. And so it is absolutely clear this is a real increase. You don't have to tell the doctors in the emergency rooms who are dealing with tons of patients right now throughout the south and southeast, southwest of the U.S. that this is real. It's real. Now, the fact is we're also seeing this more in younger adults, the 20 to 40-year-olds. It was a mistake to open bars early, and we're paying for that mistake. But there are things that everyone can do to quiet this down. If you're a young adult, remember, you don't want to have the severe illness or death of an older relative on your conscience for the rest of your life. Everyone who's exposed needs to quarantine. Everyone who's within 6 feet of other people needs to wear a mask. There's a lot of things we can do, and there's no one perfect answer. It's a comprehensive, all-of-society response. You know, Gail, we are an outlier. Countries all over the world, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, are controlling the virus. It's not easy, but we're not, and we can.
But there's another interesting development. It's being reported that scientists are asking the World Health Organization to update the virus, update us on how the virus is spread. Is there new information about that or new concerns about how the virus is spread?
We're still not sure of some of the details, and that's one of the reasons we need to do those detailed investigations of every case. A great epidemic response learns constantly. What the debate is among scientists is how common is what's called aerosol transmission, and that means that fine particles stay in the air for an hour or two. We know it happens some. It happens in healthcare facilities when you do certain procedures. It happens when choirs sing. It spews particles out there that can infect a lot of people. It also is true that there is spread from contaminated surfaces. But for all of those things, wearing a mask can make a really big difference. That's why everyone needs to wear a mask when they're within 6 feet of other people.
All right, I just wish people would listen to the scientists. And
Nah,
you're
I'm
right,
listening to
most
them
people
dum-dums.
recover from this
They don't know shit.
COVID-19. But if you're one of the rare people that don't recover, that's little consolation when you see the figures.
Please.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Frieden. We appreciate your time this morning. Vlad?
The 4th of July weekend was marred by deadly gun violence in big cities across the country. Children were caught in the crossfire. In Chicago, 77 people were shot and at least 13 died over the weekend. 7-year-old Natalia Wallace was playing with other kids when she was killed by gunfire. In Atlanta, at least 24 people were shot on Saturday night. At least 5 of them died, including 8-year-old Sequoia
32, the numbers don't
She
lie,
was in a
man. Look
car
at the
with her
numerology
mother
hand
near the
signals, man.
scene of Rashard Brooks'
Bang.
killing by police when someone in a group of people opened fire. It made
Pindo
Atlanta's
46,
mayor
hashtag I love your
furious.
beef. Talking.
So we're fighting the enemy within when we are shooting each other up on our streets in the city, and you shot and killed a baby. And it wasn't one shooter, there were at least 2 shooters. An 8-year-old baby.
Illuminati completion.
If you want people to take us seriously, and you don't want us to lose this movement, then we can't lose each other.
Still divided.
New York City and Philadelphia also reported dozens of shootings and at least 14 deaths.
Turning now to politics, President Trump used divisive language over the 4th of July weekend to link Americans who are demonstrating peacefully against racism with extremists and vandals.
Angry mobs are trying to tear down statues of our founders, deface
Leave 'em
our
up.
most sacred memorials, and unleash a wave of violent crime in our
It's gonna make a
cities.
difference.
We
They
are now
break
in
them
the
down, leave 'em
process
up.
of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who in many instances have absolutely no clue what they are doing.
Do your research.
Speaking at Mount Rushmore on Friday, the president claimed a new, quote, far-left fascism is threatening American values. The next day at the White House, he said no to taking down controversial statues, saying, quote, our past is not a burden to cast away. The tone echoed his inaugural address, focusing again on what he called then American carnage. Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett joins us. Major, good morning. These were largely scripted remarks by the president, which means they were a choice. Why did he take this tone?
Yep. Well, Tony, let's talk a little bit about American carnage in the inauguration address and this 4th of July. I know a lot of people have drawn a straight line. I don't think there is a straight line. Yes, in one sense, those are unifying moments, and you expect uplifting rhetoric. You don't expect something like American carnage or this whole thing about liberal fascism. And yet they're, I think, very distinct and different in the arc of Donald Trump. The inaugural address, American Carnage, was him addressing what he regarded and many of his supporters regarded as, in Washington, a bipartisan cabal of elitists who had let America go to waste, particularly in the industrial heartland. He came there as the anti-establishment force to topple all of that. Here, with his July 4th rhetoric, he's essentially becoming the establishment figure protecting everything that America's ever known about itself without one wisp of curiosity about things unknown. And when I talk about things unknown, let's talk about things the Trump campaign has recently learned. Greenwood in Tulsa, for example. What does it mean when you say when the looting starts, the shooting starts? All those things the Trump campaign apparently didn't know about, yet have resonance in American history. So in this case, the president is sort of establishing himself as the arbiter of American establishment, protecting all of the history as known, with no curiosity about unknown or how we might progress. That, I think, is a substantial and important distinction.
It is an important distinction, and we should remind our viewers we are, as of today, 120 days away from the 2020 election. Major Garrett, we'll be seeing you a lot before then. Thank you very much.
3.
Ahead, what the arrest of accused Jeffrey Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell could mean for Britain's Prince Andrew.